So people show up to work and they do the bare minimum. They stay below the radar and they call it quiet quitting. So they basically quit their job, but they didn't quit. So they're still getting paid and no one knows it but them.
Yeah.
And they're mailing it in.
Yeah.
And so I think this has been going on for a long time.
No shit.
Right? But it's a trend now. So people get on TikTok.
Hashtag quiet quitting. No, that's just dumb because you're like showing your cards.
Yeah.
It's like, hey.
But if your boss isn't on there.
Oh, somebody is.
Yeah.
And no real boss is ever on TikTok. They're going to have their assistant on TikTok.
I brought TikTok up in a meeting and their faces just...
You told me about that.
Yeah, they freaked out.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're the same people freaking out about Facebook.
Win all in, play my cards right. Up the ante, one blackjack all night. Roll the dice, let it ride. What are the odds I got
In case you haven't noticed, we love podcasts. In fact, we love building podcasts, everything from development to production. Because of all that, we're building a one-of-a-kind podcast network. If you have a podcast or looking to launch a new podcast, then we should talk. You can message me on Twitter at Eric_Kaz or hit us up any way that works for you. Let's talk about your podcast joining this one-of-a-kind podcast network. So you wanted to be a vocalist when you were younger?
A vocalist? What do you mean? Like a rock singer?
Singer of some sort, like a voiceover.
No.
Will Arnett, like anything.
No. I was a musician. Still am.
Yeah. So you're in the front of the stage.
No, I'm an instrumentalist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no vocals necessary.
Did you have a front man?
Doing what?
Singing.
Yes, actually, I was part of a group. I was part of
What do you mean doing what? Like who's... Okay.
Well, I mean, if I said I'm an instrumentalist.
So you're just behind the scenes creating music?
Yeah, I just create my own
computer?
music. Not on my computer, on my guitar, and on my computer.
Okay. Because you uploaded it to that.
Yeah.
Back then you did that?
Yeah, well, it was with a 4-track. These little 4-track machines that were using cassette tapes.
We just lost all the millennials.
Yeah, they're like, what's a tape?
Yeah.
It's like, I think we've got some of those, like in a collector's box.
Yeah.
Yeah, to use a 4-track recorder.
I got my NWA tape still. That was good.
I got a bunch of tapes.
That guy at the record store,
Mm-hmm.
he sold me on it. He's like, do you have this? And it was Ice Cube and NWA.
Oh,
And
really?
he's like, you have to have
Which
it.
Ice
I'm
Cube
like,
album?
his first one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. What was the name of that one? I'll have to look it up.
I
but
don't
it
remember.
was
The one
good.
I remember that really sticks with me is when I was in the 8th grade. It was Predator. Man.
That was his first one, right?
Was
Maybe? Ice Cube.
Opens up with the stalking, walking in my big black boots. I'm not about to start rapping it because I'll look
It's
like a
okay.
jackass.
It's okay. America's Most Wanted. That was it. Predator was later.
Yeah.
That's what I got.
I like it. America's Most Wanted.
You know what? It was Eazy-E that I think of it. It was NWA and Eazy-E. They were out first.
Oh, yes.
Easy does it.
By far.
Yeah. Ice Cube came later.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he was there. I'm not saying he came out later. His
He was
album
part of
came out.
NWA, yeah.
I know that.
I'm just making sure you know.
That was a good movie. It was a good,
That was a good movie.
yeah, good documentary.
Yeah.
Kind of. It was a movie documentary / his kid played him.
I know. Yeah.
We're off the rails already. So we're going to try to
So far
compartmentalize.
off the rails.
So far gone. What do you think about working from home? And all the...
Nice transition.
Yeah.
I wish people could see your face when you asked that question.
You got serious
It
or
was
what?
so sincere.
Yeah.
It's like,
I'm serious.
yeah, we're not those. Hey, what do you think about working from home?
Yeah.
That's all I've ever done my entire
Yeah.
career. Is it just me or is it fucking hot in here? It is hot.
Yeah.
Should we take off our clothes?
I mean,
What is going on with the AC?
I don't know.
Do we need to take a little pause here? I'm going to start
Mm.
sweating like a pig.
Do you want to pause it out?
Well, go ahead.
I don't know what you'd pause it out. No, I could go right in there. You just keep talking.
You just want me to
See
keep
what turns
talking?
out. Yeah.
All right. That sounds good.
I
to
don't
me.
know if it'll work.
Now that I've got everybody alone here, while Eric goes to turn up the AC. He's back.
Like an escape room.
I can already feel it getting cooler in here.
Shit. Oh, escape room.
Ooh.
Makes me think of Cobra Kai.
Oh.
You
I
haven't
thought you were
watched
gonna say
season
makes me think
5
of
yet, though.
Childhood. Oh, I have
If you
not.
have not watched Cobra Kai, and you
Yeah, you got to get on it.
when you watched the first Karate Kid, who would you like, Johnny or Daniel?
Oh, I mean, Johnny was a complete asshole, but Daniel was just unconvincing. Did not like Daniel.
There was a lot more to that story, and we never truly understand like what someone's going through.
See him out there like showing off, like with that soccer ball on the beach with Allie. And all. I mean, to me, I was just like,
Yeah.
man, even as a kid, I was like, you suck.
He didn't deserve to get beat up like he did. No one deserves that. Yeah. Okay.
Come on. You
I'm
brought
sorry.
some of that Jersey cockiness with him to California. You can't do that.
Yeah, you shouldn't do that.
Especially not against a bunch of like, high school ninjas.
Yeah. That was their turf.
Yeah, that was their girl.
Yeah.
His girl.
Mm.
He was
Now
thinking
it's
like
nobody's girl. Someone else's girl. She showed up.
in season 5. I know she showed up like
she
season 2.
No, she didn't show up in season 5.
Allie.
like-
We're talking about Allie.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was too good for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But Daniel
Yeah.
sucked. He just always sucked.
Yeah.
I always thought he was a
I heard he
sucky
wasn't good
actor.
at karate. Like that was.
He wasn't.
Yeah.
That was pretty obvious. Just
Yeah.
look at him. He just looked like shit.
Yeah.
I mean,
That he didn't take it serious. Like he was too big for that.
was that his position?
I don't know.
Because a guy like him looks like he needs to learn a little self-defense.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. He struggled in The Outsiders too. Did you see
He
that?
is just a struggler. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah. He had a cameo in Entourage. You used to watch Entourage?
I've seen a few of the episodes.
No,
but
you got to see all the episodes. It's
All
one
of
of the
them?
best. It's really good. Yeah, he had a cameo. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was good. It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Outsiders?
I remember The
one
Outsiders.
of the best.
Pony Boy?
Yeah.
I thought he was Pony Boy.
No, this is Johnny. Johnny, man.
Johnny was in The Outsiders?
No, not Johnny from Karate Kid. Johnny in The Outsiders was Daniel LaRusso,
Ah.
which is Ralph Macchio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, question.
Johnny died.
Oh,
Spoiler alert. But if you haven't seen Outsiders, then you haven't seen that movie.
I have. I just don't
Okay.
remember much of it.
It's a good book, good movie. Because
We
they
had to
all
read in
read it.
school.
Like your kids will read it.
Yeah.
Eventually, and you have to watch the movie.
Yeah.
They still roll in on some of these schools. They roll in like the old like cart
Yeah.
with the old TV there.
Oh, I
and
always
their
got
kids sit in the
excited.
back like, I can't see shit. And they get quizzed on it and they fail it because they don't know what happened in the movie.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were sleeping anyway.
Yeah.
Hey, you knew that.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you think about working from home?
I like that. I mean, there's a lot to be said right now. But everyone in Charlotte's back to work, it feels like
Yeah, I guess.
driving around. But I guess not.
Yeah.
There was an issue. The reason I said it,
Yeah.
there was a podcast. I
Oh.
might have mentioned, it's all happening on podcasts now.
I hate podcasts so much. I hate them.
What do you think of Malcolm Gladwell?
He's
don't
always kind
read.
of boring. Yeah.
Really? He's boring?
No, I think he's a brilliant dude, but I never gave a shit about his 10,000 hours and everything else.
Okay. But he's an interesting writer. He's a good writer.
He's good.
He just talks about like these stories and he somehow relates it to these ideas. And he'll do a ton of research and stuff that you would never like this youth basketball league and why the team was like winning all these games, whatever.
No,
And he
good
would,
point. Good point. Okay, I think I'm just thinking back to like the last like video or something that I saw of him. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm kind of bored.
Haters.
Yeah. Well, no, but I think he is. I mean, he's exceptional. I do believe that.
He's got a masterclass. You can learn how to write from him.
That's what I think I was watching some of his masterclass.
But he does talk because his chapters are like,
You know what? It's almost guarantee it's me. It's not him. It's me.
well, people got mad at him.
For what?
He's on a podcast
Uh-huh.
and he talked about how working from home
Mhm.
is really bad
Okay.
and people shouldn't work from home. And he was getting kind of emotional about it, right?
Yeah.
It was a New York Post article.
Mhm.
And I was like, I got to hear this podcast because they're making these bold claims. So I go and reach out and search the podcast Diary of a CEO. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So I listen to the podcast. It's like an hour and 40 something minutes.
Mm.
So I'm about like hour and 15 minutes. There's been no talk of
Yeah.
working from home. He's talked about his childhood.
Yeah.
He's talked about running track. He's talked about his father passing away.
Yeah.
And then later on in the podcast, there's this section where they talk about working from home.
Yeah.
And he gets into this. He had just been like emotional and tearing up about his father.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, there's this, 15, 20 minutes where he's talking about working from home. And
Yeah.
Malcolm Gladwell's the big name. The host of the show talked more about working from home than he did. In fact, saying how like they just went, the New York Post and all these people, and it's everywhere now. And
Yeah.
people took over and said, he's a disaster. He's a liar. He's worked from home.
Fucking hate media journalists. I mean, not all of them, but the vast majority of them are fucking trolls.
But people
Yeah.
took it. And then like people are like, they're canceling him. I don't know if they've canceled him.
So
I don't even know what
stupid.
that means anymore. Because
It means nothing.
because if so many people get canceled,
Right. All it does is blow up
Doesn't
your
matter.
profile. It's great.
right.
What do you
Right,
get canceled?
right,
What,
right.
by the media? Wonderful.
And you
Congratulations.
could disagree with his statement or you could, but I'm like, how many of those people actually listen to the full podcast? And how would you come away with that?
Mhm.
Hey, you could disagree with things that he said,
Yes.
but how would you come away with like, he's a bad person?
Dude, we've covered this ground. People
Yeah,
are just easily,
That's me.
sadly.
I got to stop getting pulled into that.
No. This is good. We want to manufacture outrage. We want to find the thing
Yeah.
that makes us so mad
Yeah.
that we redline
Yeah.
on.
Can't do it. Oh, I'm doing it.
Are you doing it?
Why me?
You spiking?
How would I be spiking?
Because
I'm
you're
not even-
outraged.
Yeah.
Because you're angry. Am I spiking?
You're not.
All I'm saying.
Because your voice goes too high when you speak.
Ah. You're right. I wanted to be a vocalist.
Yeah. I had Taylor Swift playing on my car the other day and I had the bass way up. My wife's like, I know there's a lot to go with that.
There really is.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot.
And the bass was just banging. And it was like, it was good.
Well, let me throw this back out here.
We're a big Taylor Swift family, but go ahead.
No, I got that, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got 2 girls,
Mhm.
1 son.
Yeah.
I mean, you're outnumbered.
Yeah.
So I get it. My
Mhm.
wife's outnumbered. It's
Mhm.
just me, our 2 sons.
I've seen her live. She's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes a woman like that to put up with a guy like me.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
she's calm,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
she could do so much better.
You've worked from home most of your life. I've worked from home a lot. And he actually even talks about, I listened to this a while ago. I have to go listen again. There's this hybrid approach where it's not, because they've done these studies that say people feel they're not a part of something if they're not in the office.
True,
Now, I
yeah.
agree. Every single day going through traffic, like it's a waste of time.
Yep.
It's stressful. It's frustrating. It's expensive. Gas is expensive. Then you got to go out to lunch. Then you can't spend time with your kids. I get all of that.
Yeah.
But there's truth to the fact that few people quit or get fired because they didn't feel a part of something.
Mhm.
And if you don't feel a part of something, it's hard to carry on with all that you're doing. And I think that is that's what he's getting at. And it's not, these things are never blanket statements.
Yeah.
If you're better waking up, having your coffee, closing your door, and just grinding it out, getting to work, go for it.
Yeah.
And if you feel like you're and you feel a part of something and you're working at something, then do that.
Correct.
He's wrong and this and that, and people just freak out.
And most of those are probably bots. Guarantee you.
Yeah, there's always bots.
There's a lot of bots.
Yeah, there are.
There's been a lot of bots for a long time. Did we talk about the Reddit threads or just, these Twitter bots that are arguing with each other? I mean, it's wild.
That's
they're
wild.
arguing over politics
So why
and all
should we
kinds of
even
culture.
care what anyone says?
Dude, that's the point. Who
Yeah.
gives a shit?
Yeah.
I don't. If somebody's like, oh, well, Jared's this, I'm like, hey, what? Cool. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, just don't engage with it. It's just stupid.
Yeah.
Stupid. And here's the reality. I think it comes down to the person, right? Some people are better working from home without any distractions. Even though you've been to my backyard office. I mean, that shit is amazing. It's great,
Yeah.
but it gets lonely.
Yeah.
I thrive around people, but I'm a walking contradiction because I've also never worked for anybody in my entire professional career.
Yeah.
I like not having, like employees, like W-2 employees, but at the
Right.
same time, I work best with a team, but it has to be a very select team.
Yeah.
So all that to say is that work is complex, depends on the kind of person you are and what really gets you amped. Because it's rare that just being by myself and working on something nonstop really gets me going unless it's something I'm really, really wanting to do.
Right.
Again, that's part of the ADD, right? It's just, I thrive off of interaction. That's why I enjoyed this podcast.
Extroverted.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like you need that.
Yeah.
But there's times I could imagine you're working on a project.
Oh yeah. I
where
don't want to be
3
distracted.
hours
Mhm.
by yourself
Yep.
and just working on, like, you enjoy it.
Yep.
That's not a bad thing. Now you probably got to go spend some time with somebody. Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's a friend. Maybe it's.
What do you think I'm going to do after this show?
Right. Yeah. Oh, wow.
That's all
So
I
I don't
come
know how
here
to
for.
take that.
You should take it as a compliment,
Okay.
man.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're going to go hunker down after this.
Oh yeah. Because
Yeah.
I'll have my interaction fix.
Mm.
It'd be great. I've had my Eric fix.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. It'd be
Friendship.
really good.
Yeah. Yes.
Best friendship?
That's
Not
pushing
yet.
it. Yeah. So
Yeah, I
we're
don't
there.
want to push it.
Yeah.
You take your time.
Okay.
I'm glad we can just call each other friends in
Yeah.
public now.
Space is good for people.
Space is great for
Yeah,
people.
I like
it
that.
really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is good. This is really good. So yeah, I mean, as for people piling on, that's just because
We're dealing with it now with sports. So football season, as we record this is
Oh,
evergreen.
yeah.
Remember, easy on week 1 and all this stuff. I
yeah. But I mean, again, we're not like pontificating about, I mean, we're talking about
Remember,
our
this is the
opinions.
podcast that Baker's going to listen to when he retires.
We're going to have Baker on the show.
Okay. We can do that.
Yeah.
He didn't look happy week 1.
Dude, I tell you what, me and my dad were both so conflicted.
Mm.
I wanted the Browns to stomp the shit out of the Panthers because I'm a Browns fan,
Yeah.
but I'm a Baker fan.
Yeah.
So it was weird to root for both teams when both teams had the ball.
Yeah.
Baker looked like dog shit in the
I had
first
to
quarter.
turn that game off. They went backwards.
Yeah.
They were going backwards every series. I'm like, okay, they're never going to get a yard.
Yeah, dude. But come that second quarter, it's like, now that's the Baker. That's the man I fell in love with.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's not unique to me and my dad being
Right.
Baker fans. Apparently, and I remember because somebody asked him about this. There were a ton of Browns fans. Number one, there was just a shitload of Browns fans that showed up
Oh, yeah.
at the game.
Yeah.
So we should probably talk
I
about
sent you that video, like
I know.
that bar. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
They're all
wild.
brown. Yeah, which makes sense.
All of it. But a lot of them showed up with their Mayfield jerseys on. And somebody asked Mayfield about that in the post game. And he was like, yeah, it means a lot. He goes, that place will always be special to me.
Yeah.
Those fans, he was like, this is where I got my start. You know, I'll never.
Because you don't get that here. It's not the same thing.
No.
Cleveland's, it'll be different.
Yeah.
It's not bad. And that's where you got to start. And it's just, they just love it to a different level.
Well, and I tell you what, man, like I've listened to the local Cleveland sports shows and people that talk about, they have to talk more about why it's great that Baker's gone. But if you look at actual Cleveland fans, I mean, it's a clear divide. Like, I mean, if you're a Cleveland fan, number one, you're not from Cleveland. But if you're a Cleveland fan, I'm not from Cleveland. I'm not saying you, but if you're a Cleveland fan, you like a fighter because you're the underdog always. So it's just built into the DNA.
Yeah, sure.
It's like, it's a standing joke when we go, yeah, this is going to be our year. And we already know like the Browns are going to brown,
right?
So it's not, but you still hold out hope. Yeah. And Baker had that same kind of fire. And that's why people loved him. So yeah, I think there's, the Browns have got an amazing lineup, but it kind of feels a little lifeless. I mean, Jacoby Brissett looked like shit.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
just average.
Oh, that below average.
Below average.
I mean, sure, if you're just talking numbers, I don't know, man. But I mean, it was just like, how slow were those
average meaning
balls?
like he'll win you 1 out of every 2 games.
Dude.
That's average. That's 500. You have to stay alive for when Deshaun comes back. But Deshaun hasn't played football in a long time.
A year and a half, man. Yeah. Like, what's he going to look like? It's going to take him half a year to get. You don't know. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
But I mean, I was just amazed. You see how fast Baker releases that ball when it wasn't getting swatted out of the air? But how fast that ball goes, it is like a bullet. And I mean, you watch Jacoby Brissett and it's like, boo, doop. It's like, all right, hey guys, let's take a coffee break. I'll catch that in a minute.
We don't need a sound man here.
Yeah.
You got it.
You like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, so sports, there's so many takes at every level of it. And that's it. That's the answer. And there's no, and especially with the NFL and college football, man, people get mad.
Yeah.
They get real mad. And then people chime in. And then you see these arguments break out. And then you see fights in the stadium. Like the NFL stuff is weird. Like I saw some fights this weekend.
Was there fights at the Panthers-Browns game?
I don't know. Probably. I haven't seen those videos yet, but
interesting.
Possibly.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Those people throwing up at the Bengals game.
Oh my God. You sent that to me.
Yeah.
That was so nasty. She's just like, blah, blah, blah. It's like
she said she was rinsing her mouth out. That was
my ass.
Yeah.
I mean, it's clear she's
what
vomiting.
Are we doing here? This
and then
is
the
a
kid
family
with the neck
environment.
brace in front of him. I was like, are you just barfing on this? Because the one guy turned around like, yo, what's up? Because his legs were getting splattered with barf.
Man, it's
gross,
nasty.
Man. That's why I'm so glad I don't go to games.
Yeah.
That's the narrative I'm going with.
Yeah.
Hey, I will say this other thing about the Panthers-Browns game. The Panthers got screwed.
Oh, at the end of the game?
Twice.
Yeah.
Number one, that roughing the passer was bullshit.
Yeah.
Again, I can't believe him defending Panthers because the Browns, believe me, the Browns get so many bad calls called on them. It's interesting to see that, like, oh, they're actually getting some,
Yeah.
And then the intentional grounding that should have been, he's like, oh, it was a fake. Where Jacoby Brissett, he should have gotten intentional grounding.
Yeah.
But he didn't.
Yeah.
So that was 2. Because that intentional grounding would have put them 15 yards back and forced them, I think, into 4th down, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, Cade York fucking crushed it.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy's amazing.
Yeah. Rookie.
Yeah. What's like 58, 59 yards?
Stupid.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
He made
drilled it.
But if you'd have gone 15 yards back, that would have been a different story.
Oh, he would have made that. Yeah.
Yeah.
73 yards. That's a lot of yards.
God, if he would have made that, though.
Yeah.
Geez. Now that would have been like, hey.
Yeah. Hey, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Refs are our problem. I talked to this other podcast on the network.
Oh, there you go.
Buckeye Focus.
Yeah.
So we're talking
big props to the SC network. No, the Kaz network.
Kaz. So I don't know. Now there's too many words. It's just like, well, come back to it. You did.
My bad.
God. Let's start over. Yeah. Rewind.
Okay. And go.
What were we talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Refs. So I was talking to these former college football players. And the thing with refs is you don't let refs decide the game, right? So that's how coaches talk. That's how players talk. Fans can talk differently. Fans can say what they want to say. There's truth to that. To say, well, if you didn't want it to come down to the refs, then you should have made these other plays. Because there's a college football game this weekend, Alabama, Texas. The refs got involved or didn't get involved. Like there was a face mask penalty that was right in front of the ref. The ref didn't see it. It should have been 1st and goal for Texas. Instead, it was 2nd and 9. And Texas still could have scored, but they didn't. So when 2nd down, 3rd down, they kicked a field goal. If they would have gotten the 1st down, it's like, okay, they're that much close to the end zone. Plus they get an extra down. If they score a touchdown there, it's not looking as good. But anyway, what do we do with refs? Because refs are a part of the game. They're humans. Yes, they have replay and they still can't get it right after replay. Refs in some ways, it's like you don't want it to come down to refs, but there's two teams and they're both trying to win. And sometimes a call is going to be made that's all of a sudden it's a 15-yard further field goal. Well, the Browns would have lost the game.
Yeah.
So it impacted the outcome, but I guess you could say, hey, we shouldn't have let it come down to those refs. And that's the thing you want to say, but at the same time, as a fan and maybe a player behind the scenes that's going to say something different, to say the refs screwed us.
Yeah.
But I don't know what you do with that.
Yeah. I mean, the same thing happened to the Browns in Pittsburgh last year, where Rashard Higgins got speared by, I can't remember the guy's name, Pittsburgh. Rashard Higgins, going into the end zone, caught it and got just speared helmet first, and they didn't call it.
Yeah.
And so he didn't get the touchdown, but they didn't even call the penalty. And we're like, that's clear as day.
Yeah.
Like he got speared.
Yeah.
It was no accident.
Yeah.
And there's so many bad calls.
Oh, it's constant.
So it's always going to be in
So
there.
I guess you just got to deal with it.
Well, I mean, yeah, you could say, well, you should have played a better game in the first half. And sure, they should have. But, the first game for everybody's going to be rusty.
Right. But all the games there's going to be more games that are going to be affected by the refs.
Of course.
So I guess we have to live with it.
Yeah.
No
I mean, what's the
excuses, Jared.
alternative?
Yeah.
No refs? That's fucking chaos.
Yeah. Call your own fouls.
Guys, that was on me. Sorry about that.
Remember they had the refs come in one year? It was like a few years. It's probably been more than a few years now. And the refs were striking. So they had scrub refs or scat, whatever they call them.
I wasn't watching any
they
games
were
then.
terrible.
Oh, I bet.
Oh, they're so bad. They're like, bring the refs back. I mean, they were just as bad as you could be, but it's like, yeah.
That's wild. What year was that?
I don't know. Let's say it's 7 years ago.
Yeah, let's go 7. That's fine.
It was pre-COVID. Like there's me pre-COVID and post-COVID.
Don't get me started on COVID.
PC and PC. So figure out which one's what. I don't know.
PCP?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know.
No, I'm glad we're able to kind of cover this here. But how do you think what do you think they're thinking about Baker now?
I don't know. It's too early.
Yeah.
It's 1 week.
It looked like they were booing him after the first quarter.
Everyone is so quick in this day and age to judge, to make assumptions on the way it's going to go. It's like
bullshit.
It's been 1 week. It could be anything. It could be a person,
an
individual. See him in high school and they do bad. That kid sucks.
I got that my whole high school career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But man, there's a ways to go. There's ways to go.
Yeah.
We had to all take a deep breath and,
I'll tell you, I mean, I'm going to watch the Panthers this year. I am.
Yeah. You said that.
Yeah. And I will say this though. I was a little, who's calling the plays? I mean, second quarter, it looked like Baker was more in charge of the speed of play. First quarter, it looked like somebody else was calling plays for him because they did not make sense.
Yeah. Their former offensive. Oh, that's right. Ben McAdoo. Remember the guy with the stash?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up with this
They call the porn stash. He was the Giants head coach. They like him.
Yeah. Baker really likes him a lot.
They have respect in the.
Yeah.
He's got respect in the NFL. He didn't do great with the Giants.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
But he's here now.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I was a little concerned. I didn't understand why they didn't put Rashard Higgins in. I mean, that was Baker's guy.
Yeah.
No. Baker and Rashard had the most chemistry in Cleveland by far.
Yeah.
But Rashard was on the roster there with Odell and Jarvis Landry. And so like he was always the sub.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's great. They used to call him Rashard Mayfield because he was over at Baker's house all the time. Seriously.
That's hilarious. Those stories are important. Those are some like lines that you don't know typically as a fan.
Yeah.
Of like, who's their boy? Who are they hanging out with?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wait, he's not friends with anybody on the team. Him and it's like the Bills quarterback and the former offensive coordinator, now the coach of the Giants, same team. Like they were really close.
Yeah.
But you don't know that unless you know someone who knows someone that says they're hanging out together all the time. That's all that hangs out.
Yeah. Well, what you do get is a lot of speculation, right? Even during the Panthers and Browns games, the commentators like, I mean, there was just a lot of people in the Browns locker room that like just pushing this narrative that Baker wasn't loved by his team, which is bullshit.
Why are we watching the same broadcast that we've been watching for the last 100 years? Why is it the same? It's boring. And these announcers,
they suck.
And not to mention, like, they have to go week to week to week to week. And like, you have a different game. You're in a different city. You're traveling a ton. Like, they don't know enough. Like, there's always a Tony Romo out there who's like a lot of fun to watch and knows a lot about football. And that's good. But overall, I'm like, these broadcasts suck.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not exciting. There should be a different way to watch it. Not to mention the amount of commercials. It's every single year. These games take forever. And why do you think kids are like, this is boring?
Well, you know how you texted me during the game? I didn't look at your text because I was like, because we started the game 45 minutes late so we could fast forward.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it was okay. I don't even think your text was game related.
It probably wasn't.
It's probably something from Twitter.
Yeah, someone threw up on somebody.
Something like that. I can just look it up. But that's the only way I can really enjoy the game is if I can fast forward through the commercials.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'll tell you, so a guy who I think is really obnoxious but could absolutely make the game announcing, take it to a whole nother level, is Shannon Sharp.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Somewhat different.
He sounds like a Southern Baptist pastor.
Yeah. Oh, I think so.
He just go wild.
Yeah. Well, you get someone like if you had someone who's into sports and who's funny, like a Kevin Hart. I'm not saying he would be the guy, but you have someone, and they tried that on Monday Night Football.
Did they?
Right? No, it's a comedian. Jeez. Why? This is always the case. Who was the comedian? Dennis Miller. I figured it out. Yeah, he was on there with Dan Fouts, and it just didn't work out. But they tried. But you know what? I give him credit. You have to do something different.
So, for sure, TV announcers, not fun.
Yeah.
Radio announcers, that's a skill. Those guys are great.
Yeah, that's
They're
different.
like, so-and-so's taking it down. They're like, it's like they're building up, football, baseball, everything.
Yeah.
That is an art form.
Yeah. Soccer and like European soccer.
I've just never.
But maybe it's the accent. I don't know. College football game day on ESPN. It's become such a terrible show.
I bet.
Horribly biased towards Southern football. Fine, whatever. If you like that, it's great for you. The announcers they have on there, they have Lee Corso, who's like 80, like late 80s, and he's a legend, but he doesn't have what he used to have.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like putting him out there, and it's almost like he's a mascot at this point, and it's uncomfortable to watch.
It's kind of sad.
But I will say this, they just hired Pat McAfee, who
that guy's so funny, man.
So they have to bring him in because you have to change. Because if you just continue to say, well, we're going to be college football game day like we've always been, at some point it's terrible. Like you have Desmond Howard, who's just awful. Like he's just terrible at what he does. And I'm not saying that because he went to Michigan and all this kind of stuff. He was amazing there. But it's like you have to change.
Yeah.
Or you're just dating. No one's watching that shit anymore. So you have to make a change, right? So all of a sudden that changes it.
He needs to bring his crew with him too.
Yeah, I don't know how that. Maybe they're on this last week, or maybe it's this week. I don't know when it starts.
Because that would be fun just to watch. Like his commentating is a riot.
Yeah, he's wild. I like how he's always standing up. He's got the tank top on.
Yeah,
and he's got AJ Hawk.
Yes,
he's soaking his stogies
on a Zoom call somewhere.
Yeah.
He's like a library.
And sometimes you'll see him. He's just shaking his head as to what Pat McAfee's talking about. Is hilarious.
Yeah,
that's good. I just realized while you were like having this thing, we just talked for, 17 minutes about the Carolina Panthers, like the least interesting. Now they got Baker. They're one of the least interesting NFL organizations without a doubt.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe it's their fan base, this or that, but whatever. And, but
it could change.
If our third category in Apple Podcasts is Carolina Panther football, like we might be number one.
Well, why don't you make it happen?
I think we're going to be a Panther podcast.
But at the same time, though,
Panther / it could change though overnight. Because what if they bench him?
Why would they bench him?
I don't know. Because Darnold? No.
Darnold's fucking injured. Like, I don't think anybody wants him to come back.
No, they don't.
Yeah. And what's his face? Corral, he's out for the
hurt.
season.
Yeah. God. If they don't win some games, they're going to have some issues. They're going to fire that coach.
Who are they playing next week?
Know. I mean, you just like look at me like I know all this stuff.
So much for Evergreen.
Yeah. Right? I know. Like by the time this thing airs.
I have to say, like, 2012 has been a great year.
I know, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Now it just like throws the whole show off.
Yeah. No, you're welcome.
Mm-hmm. Oh, is this September 18th coming up? It is. They're playing. Of course they are.
The Bills?
No.
Who?
The Giants. We just mentioned them twice already.
Should we watch it together?
They're going to be in New York. Giants had a cool win. They beat the Titans. So they're screwing up, got the ball back, went down the field, scored a touchdown.
Nice.
Extra point to tie. They went for 2.
Yeah.
They got it.
Nice.
Got it.
Wow.
Gave the ball back to Tennessee. Tennessee goes right down the field. Tennessee's, of course, going to win. Misses a field goal.
Shut up.
Giants win the game. Yeah.
Too bad they didn't have Cade York. Hey, who's the Panthers kicker? Because he's got a short leg.
He's got a short leg.
He's got a short leg. Well, I'm looking at Cade York and I'm like, this guy's a beast.
Yeah.
But the Panthers kicker, like, he's a little bit of a struggler.
Yeah.
It's all right. Here's the other thing, too. We could also have like a Browns-focused podcast as well, because look how many fucking Browns fans are in Charlotte.
Oh, there's a lot.
I'm part of the Carolina Browns backers.
Ooh,
yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, I've never actually shown up to any of their meetings or anything.
Oh, they have meetings?
Yeah.
Like weekday meetings?
Some rites and some rituals, but I'm not going to get into those here because that would be violating.
Panthers signed kicker Eddie Pinheiro to replace Zane Gonzalez.
There you go, Eddie Pinheiro.
Yeah. These kickers can bounce around pretty fast if they're not like steady.
You know who won't bounce around?
Who's that?
Cade fucking York.
Yeah.
Unless somebody pays him a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah. Well, they got him for a few years if he's a rookie, so they're good.
Yeah, man. He's a killer.
Yeah.
He's a straight up killer.
You ever thought about quiet quitting?
So dumb. I mean, to me, it's just like, I don't know.
Just mailing it in.
I mean, what is quiet?
What is I was going to say, like, let's define it for
I
the
don't know, man.
for the
You're asking a
listeners.
guy who's never worked in corporate America. A lot of my clients are corporate America, but nobody hires me to help them be better in corporate America.
So people show up to work and they do the bare minimum. They stay below the radar
Mhm.
and they call it quiet quitting. So they basically quit their job, but they didn't quit. So they're still getting paid and no one knows it but them.
Yeah.
And they're mailing it in.
Yeah.
And so I think this has been going on for a long time.
No shit.
Right. But it's a trend now. So people get on TikTok.
Hashtag quiet quitting. Now that's just dumb because you're like showing your cards.
Yeah.
It's like, hey,
But if your boss isn't on there,
oh, somebody is.
yeah.
And no real boss is ever on TikTok. They're going to have their assistant on TikTok.
I brought TikTok up in a meeting and their faces just,
You told me about that.
yeah, they freaked out.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're the same people freaking out about Facebook. Oh, sorry. That's TikTok.
Oh, Mel Robbins. Yeah. She's great.
You like
I
her?
Oh, she's badass, man.
That just showed up in my stuff right
She's,
there.
well,
That says something about me,
yeah, it
I
does.
guess.
Yeah.
That's how you know the true test of a person, individual,
The algorithm works.
algorithm. Are you scared of it?
No, I'm fully aware of the algorithm.
Yeah.
It does not shock me. I mean, I know I'm being tracked.
Yeah.
Well, let's try an experiment right now.
You're being quietly fired.
I'm quietly fired.
Yeah. I mean, thousands and thousands of videos. on
What
quiet
would
quitting.
quietly fired look like? You just stop receiving, like your paycheck just gets
That was
smaller and
like,
smaller,
Office
and then you
Space,
just stop
right?
receiving it. Yeah, I guess that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Wow. I don't know what TikTok just did to my phone, but
dude, it's a Chinese-owned company.
when does LinkedIn have a quick video? YouTube Shorts. It's a thing. No,
LinkedIn.
I'm
Yeah, no, I agree.
YouTube Shorts is a big thing.
I
It's
know.
searchable.
Yep.
Yeah. They're coming for it. They're not messing around.
No, they're not.
They're losing search to TikTok. So
Mm.
people look for restaurants instead of going to Google. They go to TikTok.
Yeah.
Hotels. Where do I visit? What do I do? How do I do this?
Yeah,
And Google's losing to TikTok. That's pretty wild.
yeah,
Yeah. China.
they're
is-
losing to China.
China's, damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in trouble.
Well, I think we just have to be. Yeah, that's a whole.
Mm,
I've been tracking on that one for years.
okay.
I mean, when I was in grad school, there was all the, we need to go get business in Asia. We need to go, not we, but people were still talking about this. This is back in 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
And the things that became really clear to me as we started to dive into stuff is that trying now to go, set up shop in Asia is just stupid. And this was back in 2010, 2011. What you have to do is you have to look at where's the fastest growing economy, who are the real power players, and then understanding cultural dynamics, right? Like in the States, we don't do long-term planning. We plan for 90 days because that's how the stock market and
Quarters,
everything else,
yeah.
the quarterly, it's silly. But China, they have a 50-year lookout.
Mm.
Israel, same thing. A lot of other countries are planning for decades in advance. So then the question is, well, where is China putting their energy and resources
Mhm.
back in 2010 to 2012?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you where it was. They were throwing cell towers up all over the continent of Africa. They were building a digital infrastructure. People that didn't even have running water had cell phones. And you start to go, okay, well, why are they doing that? Mineral rich. I mean, massive continent with tons of resources. And if you can control that, especially on the coastlines, I mean, it's just strategic, not just militarily, but economically, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Because China's not coming in and marching in with armies. They come in and they buy things or they offer cheap goods that there's no profit because they're not incentivized that way because the state usually owns a controlling interest in every private company. So if you understand the dynamics of how the state and private business works in China, you can better understand the moves that they make around the world, even here. Like as of recent, they're buying up farmland to feed China and they're buying up farmland in the United States. And we're selling it to them.
Yeah. I was going to say, individuals.
Private
right.
parties.
Because they want the money.
Right. Because that's how we're incentivized.
Yeah.
Profit over everything else.
Yeah. Wow.
That in and of itself becomes a national security threat. But then you have to step back and go, well, is the response or the answer that, we become more like China? No. But we have to at least be cognizant of, okay, hey,
What are they up to?
right. Ask that question.
Mm,
There's all kinds of shady shit, but that's how they operate.
yeah.
We talk a lot about, China's army hadn't been to fucking war in what? I mean, like, we don't know what their arms. I mean, look at Russia. Holy shit. Everybody's like, oh God, the Russian military. The Russian military looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, the United States is battle hardened because we've been at war for 25 years.
Right.
And like warfare is not economic, it's cyber and it's economic.
Yeah. Right. Which is what Russia's doing right now, right? With the winter coming and energy and all this stuff
Yeah.
that they're going to do to Europe is not necessarily the military. it's like you're talking about.
Well, that's just more opportunistic. Like the whole sanctions thing backfired, but sanctions have never actually punished, despots or dictators. It always ruins the people. And, foreign policy experts will tell you the same thing. It's like, well, that's kind of baked into the equation there, is that it's this far-fetched idea that we've had for years, decades, that never really works, is that if you can put tight enough sanctions on a country, the people will suffer so much that they will rise up and overthrow their government democratically. It's very naive.
Yeah.
And we don't have a real good track record of that.
Yeah.
So instead, we just fund proxy wars, which is what we're doing.
Okay. Well, India, they got a lot of people, and they're going to have a lot more people.
Of course.
And not that they're going to battle with anybody, but they're just going to be, every other person you talk to is going to be related to India somehow.
Well, I mean, maybe. The other thing you got to look at is what's going on in the environment in India right now. Man, they're going through some terrible droughts. I mean, when you look at like the record-breaking heat waves that are taking place in India, I mean, that's some scary shit.
Yeah.
Water scarcity. When I think about the United States, I think that our biggest threat is failing infrastructure, and in particular, failing water infrastructure. If you look at what's going on in the Western United States, we don't pay attention to it over here because we're in North Carolina. We have water. But if you go out and you look at what's going on with the Colorado River Basin states, I mean, this could easily break out into, small armed conflicts over water rights. California is implementing massive energy and resource restriction on the public because of the lack of water. It's gotten so bad. If you look at the Lake Mead, I don't know if you've seen any of this stuff on the news, but again, I mean, this is part of a long-term scenario project that I'm working on with a client right now, but we're looking at the future of water. I'm paying attention to a lot of this.
Yeah.
It's fucking terrifying when you really think about if you live out there.
So who's got to be worried out there? I'll read about it. But
oh, yeah. No. Anybody who relies on the Colorado River for their water. Anybody.
That's a lot.
It is.
Yeah.
Here's the crazy thing. Arizona, right? Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah.
Let's just use them as an example. Probably 6 months ago or so, Phoenix, Arizona, I can't remember these small little towns that are outside Phoenix, Arizona that don't have water infrastructure, right? There's no water treatment or waste facilities, nothing like that. They would have water transported to them if they didn't have well water. And I think roughly 6 months ago, city of Scottsdale, Phoenix, I'm probably getting a couple of these things wrong, but they said they're no longer going to transport water out there because they don't have it. So you have all these people that are living out there that will have no water. Essentially, they're going to have to just walk away from their homes because there's no water.
Yeah.
And there's no like, well, hey, here's the recovery plan. No.
So what do they do then?
Close the doors and move. But where? You can't sell your house.
Right.
So you couple that too with just a lot of really bad policy, like certain policies that are out there. You'll find a lot of these little neighborhoods that are 5 houses and less. And again, I could get these numbers wrong because the way that it is structured out in Arizona is that any housing development, I think it's 5, maybe it's 10, let's just say 5. Any housing development that has 5 homes or say 10 homes or less does not have to assure that there is access to water. So they can go out there and build in the middle of the fucking desert.
Yeah.
And then they don't have to disclose to you whether or not there's like a water well.
Who's right? I mean, who has to do something about like the home buyer would say, I'm not buying here because you don't have this?
Yeah. Well, it's just, again, we've talked about this when we talk about sprawling development.
Yeah.
We talked about this years ago with Charlotte starting to look a little like Atlanta. And that's because developers are incentivized to come in and develop. They're not incentivized to ensure occupancy. So you have a lot of homes that just go up willy-nilly because it's like, oh yeah, this is great. Look, we're growing. Maybe vertically,
Yeah.
but are you really growing?
Yeah.
So anyway, all that coming back to say all this, when you said who's really going to be affected, Arizona is having a major crisis. Do you know what the number one fastest growing city was during COVID when everybody was moving to different places?
Was it Phoenix or?
Yes.
Okay.
Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah.
Fucking stupid.
Yeah.
So you already have a massive water problem and now you have overpopulation in that city thanks to COVID. Yeah. I mean, you could see scenarios playing out over the next 5-10 years of water refugees coming east.
Yeah. I was going to say, is that where they come next? Come to the East Coast?
Absolutely. You got to live, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. When these scenario that I'm writing up with the client, when these things are actually out and published, maybe we can publish these on the show.
I like that.
We've already got the 4 alternative scenario summaries that are looking at solutions around
I'd like you to
water.
read that out loud to us too. Like
I
have
could.
an audible papers on.
The sun went down for the final time in Phoenix, Arizona. Gunshots rang out. Buildings burned. Children cried. The elderly died. It was the year 2032. You like that?
Yeah.
Pretty good, huh?
That's scary
What
shit.
am I doing with my life? Oh, man, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of talk about how like this Northeast, the cities in the Northeast that were like big because Buffalo, New York, Erie Canal, because you can't live in Miami anymore because Miami's underwater.
Right.
All the coast towns up through Georgia and the Carolinas can't live there.
Mm-hmm.
So people are moving back up to, I don't know if you'd go to the port cities because they might have a problem, but like Cleveland, Buffalo, maybe Boston.
Yeah.
Like everyone's left is going back because it's 130 degrees down in Miami.
Yeah. It's insane. Not only that, then you have to look at, these large cities. If you get a massive swell of new people coming in, you also have to look at, how much infrastructure is actually being repaired or modified.
Like the building, right? So they're not, they don't have to build the hospitals. Usually they don't have to build the roads, the schools.
They just need to fix the shit. And not just like patch it up. But our infrastructure is so bad. It needs to be overhauled on a major level, but nobody wants to spend the money to do that. And even the infrastructure bill that just passed, it's put a drop in the bucket of what's actually required to fucking fix it. Everywhere. But in particular, these massive cities.
Growth cities.
Yep. Atlanta, Boston, New York, all of them. There's some of the infrastructure, especially in the Northeast, is well over 100 years old. Yeah. Trying to try and put like another, 2 million people on top of that infrastructure in the Northeast. Fuck no.
Yeah. So where are we going to live in the future?
Oh man. Just wait till these scenarios come out. I don't want to start divulging because we,
Toronto.
The art form is called speculative fiction. You're basically just looking at possibilities and then putting, skin on it.
So it'd be like nowhere. US is like, we're all migrating to new cities. We're number 7 as far as like worldwide.
Oh, I think Charlotte would absolutely be a massive influx of people coming here.
Really? It's hot as shit though. What if it gets hotter? And infrastructure, it's like you can't drive to certain roads. Yeah, well. And that's today.
Let's go worst case here, right? If people are migrating here because they need water, you're not really concerned about driving. You just want to survive.
Okay. What happens in Texas?
Yeah, Texas. Texas is a little bit different. If you look at, I think San Antonio, Houston, where they get their water from is not from the Colorado River. They get it from underground aquifers.
Okay.
So the big problem is this. We're still subsidizing agriculture on a mass scale. We don't need to be doing that anymore. I know people say, no, we still have to subsidize. No, we don't. The reason agriculture was subsidized and we had all these factory farms was because of the Great Depression. It was part of the New Deal. It was so that nobody ever went hungry again. Well, guess what? We also have an obesity epidemic. We don't fucking have a problem
why do people
anymore.
think like we're running out of food? Because from what I heard is like, that's not happening anytime soon. Like, it
depends on who you talk to. It's all speculation.
People think we're going to be overpopulated. I've heard the number is going to be 9, right? And it's like, we're at 7.5. And then we get to 9 and it's going to kind of come back down after that.
Yeah. Here's the thing, right? All of the concerns about overpopulation are not about the actual number of people. Yes, we have a shitload of people. What it is about, it's about our food production and our supply chain for food. It's about what we believe we would still need to have. It's assuming number one is that we don't change our diet or we don't change food production at all, then yes, you have a crisis. But, if you move away from large factory farms, which are not needed anymore, and also put small family farms out of business all the fucking time.
Are these people tied into the politicians?
100%.
Okay. So this is all about money.
No. The agriculture industry. And again, these are not bad people, right? Like if you were being subsidized by the federal government, I know some folks, I've worked with folks that are big ag.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about Monsanto. I'm talking about actual farmers that run large farms in large areas that get subsidies, but that's how they're incentivized. They have some of the most breakthrough technology. They do great things, but the question always comes up is this going to be renewed? And it always is because they have a large lobbying arm as well.
Okay.
Right? It's like you don't want to go over and say, hey, guys, we really appreciate it, but just as a whole, as an industry, we just don't think we need all this money from you guys anymore. They've already built up a massive infrastructure of agriculture at a level that is just ridiculous.
Sure.
What are you going to do with all that? You got to keep it running. So now you're spending extra time and money to keep those things alive. It's the same with water rights, right? There's John Oliver, who I think is funny, but misguided on a number of things, but he's an entertainer. He's a comedian, but he did this whole thing on water. It was really, really good. But he was exposing some of these things about how farmers are growing alfalfa out in California, which is one of the most like water wasting crops you can possibly grow. It's used to feed, beef cattle for factory farms. Again, it all's tied into how we, what's our food production system like? But they're doing that because they have the use it or lose it laws. If you don't use the water that you have water rights to, you'll lose it. So they're just wasting water so they don't lose the water rights. So they're growing shit they don't need to grow so they don't lose water rights. It is so fucking dumb. There's no logic to it. And it's all based on like these old ass agreements, like the Colorado River Basin treaties, or where they just divvied this stuff up and said, this is who has water rights for this, this, and this. And they're still operating. I think this is from like the 20s and 30s. So not only do we have a problem thinking long-term, but we also continue to perpetuate shit that has outlasted its usefulness and context. So the concern about population is not so much, in my mind, and again, I'm not an expert, it's not about actual bodies on planet Earth. It's about how we feed bodies on planet Earth. We have to completely rethink food production. I think food production is much more localized. We have the technology and the infrastructure to do that. I mean, geez, one front yard can grow a shitload of food that could feed 2 blocks.
So who does this? Like, when does that change? Because there's so many things that go on in this world that are so short-sighted.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Well, people don't usually, en masse, they don't take action until the threat is right at their door.
Okay.
Then they do.
Okay.
So if you live in the Western United States, water is on your mind every single day. You live in the East Coast, it's not on your mind at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's also the difficulty of having a large country.
Yeah. States' rights. Well, it's like a conversation I had told you about where you talk to someone in New York State, like, well, they just got rid of the mask mandate. And you live in North Carolina, you're like, what do you mean mask mandate? For what? Like, why'd you have a mask on? Because of COVID. Because what? Like, that hasn't been a thing. But every state is so different and they're so unique and they have their own governing.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think if we get to a tipping point where you do have things like water refugees coming from the West.
That's crazy. Just that word.
I know.
Water refugees.
Yeah. Think about that.
That's the title of this show, by the way. I mean, that's
I like
good.
It's good. I don't want it to happen.
No, I know. No. But it makes you think, what the hell's a water refugee? They needed water. Yeah, that's scary.
There's all kinds of scenarios that come out of that. You think people start moving this way here, not just the fact that you've got an infrastructure problem to deal with and a governance problem to deal with, but you've got a social problem to deal with. You've got an influx of people, not enough jobs. So how are you going to feed them? How are you going to house them? And if we continue just to build like new shit on top of old decaying infrastructure, it's a death spiral. So this is why foresight's important. You got to ask these kinds of questions. You like that?
Yeah,
nice little plug for my work.
Yeah.
What's up? Anybody wants to really understand how the future might unfold? You can find me at newfuturist.com. That's NUFUTURIST.com. My name is Jared Nichols, and I'll be reading scenarios to you in this voice. But
yeah, you should have been a radio guy.
I really should have been a radio guy.
Yeah.
I could talk real close like this right here, Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I think Charlotte would actually be okay. I mean, it would be stressed. But Charlotte's not so old like New York. New York has nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
New York is what it is, but Charlotte can still expand. I think in particular up north, like when you get close to Concord and Kannapolis.
They're growing. Crazy.
Yeah, dude.
It's crazy.
Well, we used to live
everywhere
in that area. And it's beautiful up there too, but that is the place.
Yeah, because you have land. You could keep going out. Like, it doesn't take far. Once you're 30 minutes outside the city limits, there's still stuff you could do.
Big time.
Yeah.
You look at the interstate corridor.
They got to fix the inside of it, which they are. And there's some aspects. There's tons of, like, everywhere I go now, it's like there's something being worked on.
Always. Yeah. Well, and that's the advantage that a lot of southeastern cities, large cities have.
The living's weird though. Like, this whole housing market thing's like really screwy. So I was like looking at housing prices in Charlotte, just like kind of getting a feel. And you see this price. Now this house that used to sit on the market for like a week or less is still on the market.
Yep.
Now the prices are dropping. Every single house on the market has dropped. Now I'm talking about like outside of the city, like in one of some of the suburban areas.
Yeah.
It's crazy what they're expecting. I'm like, these people are on the fringe of just missing out of selling their house like overnight.
Yeah.
And now they can't sell it. And the rates are, we're coming off. Like the market dropped yesterday like crazy. The rates are going up. The Fed's going to keep raising rates, at least for, we know this month in September. Chances are again in November.
Of course.
So what does that do with the mortgages? And so it's like your purchasing power is not what it was, like not even close to what it was.
No.
Now I still think there's people, like a city like Charlotte is going to be better off than another city.
It's because it's a growing city.
Right. Because like an executive from Bank of America moves to Charlotte from New York City, they're going to be like, hey, I want this house. I'll pay cash for it. Or the company's going to buy it for me. So that, I think you're still going to be okay. And that's just one scenario. Or the investors, like you've talked about, they might still be.
I don't think you're going to see a lot of investment
Do you
anymore.
think that's done?
By far.
Even in cities like Charlotte?
Absolutely. Okay. Because money's too expensive. I mean, 6% is too expensive for the private equity groups. I mean, it's the only reason they did this was because number one, money was so cheap.
Yeah.
And the more assets you have, the more you can live. It was nothing. On top of that, if you look at the Trump tax cuts as well, there's a massive tax cut for rental properties. So if you were a landlord or if you were a company that owned a lot of property and your business was rental, you got just an amazing tax break.
Yeah.
So they just put all those things together and go, we just need to start buying up homes.
Yeah.
So they can come in and and that's what just drove
easy
the costs.
strategy for them.
Yeah, it makes sense. But now that money's more expensive, they're not doing that.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense for them to do that.
The concern I would have, and there's a thing I've been thinking about. So all these houses that you saw, people were buying houses sight unseen.
Mm-hmm.
No inspection.
Yep.
Moving in, paying probably way over what they typically would. But I get it. The market's stable.
Sure.
That's what you had to do if you wanted that house. What happens 6 months later? Because typically you can't sell that house for at least 2 years unless you're going to pay taxes on that house if it did appreciate.
Yeah, if it's your primary residence.
If it's an investor, but I'm talking about like an individual. Like we had an 07, 08, 9, right?
Yeah.
People got themselves in trouble. And that was an issue. That was a different issue.
Yeah, home flipping.
Well, people bought a 5 or 7 year ARM, right? On those houses. And then those things came true. So they bought them in 2002, 2003. And then right after the 01 crisis. So, but here, if you bought a house for $800,000.
Yeah.
And the house typically would have been $500,000.
Right.
Now the house is back to $600,000. So now you're $200,000 underwater. Mm-hmm. Now chances are you have a good interest rate on that house. Sure. So that's good. So you can stay there and you can let that thing, but you can't move.
Yeah.
Because if you do, you owe the bank a lot of money. But how many people does that have to happen to for this to become a real problem?
Oh, yeah. Well, not just that.
Yeah.
Because we looked at this too, was getting a home equity line of credit. Because how many people did that?
Because you have
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, our house appreciated, nearly doubled.
Because if you have that scenario where you had a 500 and now it's worth 800, you still live in it, you take the line of credit out. Well, now your line of credit's upside down.
It was called a cash out refi. That's what it was.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're essentially taking a mortgage out on your home based on the equity and the valuation of it now. You can say, well, hey, we can get like $200,000, additional dollars out of this house.
Yeah.
That just gets rolled into a new mortgage.
Yeah.
And now it's like home prices are dropping. Well, guess what? You're underwater.
Yeah. And I don't know if Charlotte has that direct
I don't think it's
impact.
gonna be as drastic,
but it could have it. So I saw something, and it's a headline because I tried to read the article and I couldn't because then you had to pay for it. I'm like, geez, guys, just give me the content and let me see if it's good.
Worth the money anyway.
There's like 140 major markets, let's just say, right? 90 of them are already negative for housing markets. There's 50 of them are not, and most of them are in the Southeast, of course, Charlotte, Atlanta, those types of cities. Yeah. But if it continues to trend, and if we do hit a true recession that we can all agree on is a recession.
It's not a technical recession.
Right. What happens is like, how much are we going down? Are we talking 5%, 10%, 20%, 30%? Like now we have a real problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, that runs into demand. So a place like Charlotte, it's a city on the rise continuously. Yeah. Continuing to grow. I mean, you're definitely going to see home prices drop. Yeah. Because the demand's high, but the people can't buy because the interest rates are so high. Yeah. Again, we've talked about this before. 6% is not bad, but we've gotten so used to 1%, 2%, 3%. Yeah. The 6% seems like, the apocalypse. Yeah. Yeah. So the other problem that you run into is actual supply. How many new homes are actually getting built? Yeah. Not a lot, not compared to like what it was prior to 2008. Oh my God. Yeah. Again, because that was the incentive structure. Yeah. So what is it in Charlotte? I'd like to know.
They're struggling.
Supply is not keeping up with demand. Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing too, right?
Builders are assholes too, just real quick.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to shout out to a few of the builders I know.
Yeah, here's to all those builders that have worked, he's like, eat shit. Yeah. So you have to look at that too, right? Is that it's not an isolated thing where it's, supply and demand. You also have to look at global supply chain, right? Cost of goods have gone through the roof. So inflation because of, China's still pursuing, I don't think they're still pursuing COVID zero, but they still are doing lockdowns.
Oh, man,
it's just crazy. A fucking ridiculous way of operating. Then you've got, just the cost of goods like lumber, all of that, super high.
I heard that number right now. People on average are spending $450 a month more today than they did pre-pandemic. Yeah. On just your household items. Yeah. Toilet paper.
Yeah. Dude, gas prices. Now, I'm not talking about gas at the pump. I'm talking about like your natural gas, all that. Yeah. Stupidly high. Energy bills. I'm like, what justification? Oh, there's a war in Ukraine. Don't fucking give me that. Yeah. It's like, we've got plenty of natural gas.
Well, they jack the prices up, right? Yeah. So it goes up before, whatever it is. And then they drop it down and say, oh, it's not that bad. Well, it is.
It is.
Yeah, it's such a lie. They've conned so many people in that.
Yeah.
They're still at $350 or whatever it is, in Charlotte.
The oil companies had record profits as soon as that war in Ukraine broke out, and nobody feels sorry for you. Yeah. Seriously. It's like, come on. And then the sad thing is that we've got a completely non-functioning Congress They just like to fight, bicker, get their 15 minutes of fame, 15 seconds of fame on social media, but nobody gets anything done. This is why I'm concerned with, water infrastructure in general, but water infrastructure is that, hey, you know what? This is a national security level crisis. Every major civilization throughout human history has either collapsed in full or in part because their inability to maintain water infrastructure. Look it up. Just fucking overnight, gone.
Yeah.
Because guess what? We need water to live.
Jeez.
And when that shit falls apart, everything else follows.
Mm.
But we're not worried about that. We want to know what the craziest thing Trump said or any of his wild ass supporters said, and who's denying the election, and what about critical race theory? I mean, come on, fuck it. Seriously, the most important thing is, are we actually going to have a country to live in, a state to live in?
Wow.
Or are we just going to wait until shit hits the fan and it's just like every man for themselves?
Well, this has been fun.
Yeah, you depressed, Jake?
This is good.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's actually really not good, but it is good. It works out.
I know.
So let's do this. I got to do something post podcast. So we got to hang up.
I don't
here.
want to know about your bathroom habits.
No, it's good. No,
Okay.
it's not that. I got a call.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
How often are we going to do this? It's going to be like, what should the listeners expect? Twice a month minimum?
More than that, I think. And I say that more for my own selfish needs because I can really get amped up and then just go home and be super productive. So we should do this more regularly, like maybe once a day.
We'll try it once a day. That's all we do. What do you do?
I'm down with that.
I have a podcast. Does it do anything? No, it's fun though.
Hey, the next episode, we need to talk about how I just started buying Dungeons and Dragons stuff to get my kids into it, and how I was never allowed to play it as a kid because of
I thought you were joking when you texted me something about Dungeons.
You should see this shit. I was like, man, this is gonna be great. We're gonna use our imaginations.
Wow.
And I've gotten some of the books. I'm like, this shit is complex.
Crazy.
So if anybody out there listening to this knows how to actually play this game, I would totally love to be a player. But right now, I
did not see that coming.
I know.
at all.
That's the next episode.
That is.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Dr. Dre. Good stuff.
That's right.
All right.
I'll tell you all about my role as a dungeon master. And I'm out.
In case you haven't noticed, we love podcasts. In fact, we love building podcasts, everything from development to production. Because of all that, we're building a one-of-a-kind podcast network. If you have a podcast or looking to launch a new podcast, then we should talk. You can message me on Twitter at Eric_Kaz or hit us up any way that works for you. Let's talk about your podcast joining this one-of-a-kind podcast network.